apples I needed for this crisp I'm making.
The apples I ate this morning.
Yep, the ones I just replaced through Instacart.
Oh, that was fast.
Is that my butter you're using?
Yep.
Get groceries delivered in as fast as 60 minutes. Download the app and enjoy $0 delivery fees on your first 3 orders. Service fees, exclusions, and terms apply. Instacart. Groceries that over-deliver.
Apple Music Radio has officially arrived on TuneIn. Hear live hosted radio on hits, club, chill, country, Uno, and Apple Music One. All commercial free.
Tap the banner on your screen to start listening now.
Hi, I'm Meryl Horn, filling in for Wendy Zuckerman, and you're listening to Science Versus. This is the show that pits facts against acetaminophen. Today on the show, does taking Tylenol when you're pregnant make it more likely that your kid will be autistic? This idea has been all over the news the past couple weeks because of a big report that's coming from the US government. It's supposedly going to reveal the true causes of autism. And now what's going around is the claim that it's going to talk about Tylenol.
HHS is set to release a report that will link autism to Tylenol use during pregnancy.
The use of Tylenol by pregnant women may be linked to autism in children.
The claim is shaking up medicine and raising questions from doctors.
And the government hasn't confirmed that the report will talk about acetaminophen, but this idea, it isn't something that came out of nowhere or some totally fringe scientific theory. There are lots of legit studies on this, and some of them do seem to suggest that popping acetaminophen during pregnancy is linked not just to autism, but to ADHD and other stuff going on with the brain. Meanwhile, fears around taking Tylenol when you're pregnant have been spreading on social media for years, and these new reports have added fuel to the fire.
I have been scared to death for days.
Here's why you shouldn't take Tylenol if you're pregnant or you're thinking about getting pregnant.
I took Tylenol throughout my whole pregnancy. I have a lot of fucking questions right now, and people better start fucking talking.
And yeah, this does raise some big effing questions, because tons of people take meds with acetaminophen in them when they're pregnant. Studies find that more than half of pregnant people in the US take these drugs. So what's going on here? Can taking Tylenol when you're pregnant up the chance that your kid will be autistic? When it comes to Tylenol, a lot of people are like,
I have a lot of fucking questions right now.
But then there's science. Science Versus will be right back after the break. Welcome back. This is Meryl, and today we're diving into this question of whether there's a link between acetaminophen and autism. With me is senior producer Rose Rimler. Hey, Rose.
Hi, Meryl.
So yeah, you may remember that we worked on this whole autism episode a few months ago, right?
Yeah.
And we covered just like what causes autism, why it looks like it's gotten more common in the past few decades.
Mm-hmm.
And while I was working on that, I talked to a scientist who looked at Tylenol or acetaminophen. So it was kind of perfect because when I saw this was hitting the news, I was like, oh, now I can call that guy back up.
You had this in your back pocket just waiting to go.
Yeah, it was all set to go. So yeah, this is Brian Lee, professor of epidemiology at Drexel University. Hello.
Hey, Meryl.
How are you?
It's been a very hectic last few days.
I bet. Yeah, he's getting kind of swarmed, and I wanted him to help me understand like where this idea came from in the first place. This idea that acetaminophen could affect a fetus. Like if we were going to build the case against acetaminophen according to science, where would the story start? And apparently these concerns have been floating around for a while.
Over a decade ago, the first sort of research came out about acetaminophen during pregnancy and neurodevelopmental disorders. And that idea isn't crazy because it's been previously linked with other sort of disorders, for example, specific birth defects, possible sex hormone issues. Yes.
Huh. So this was surprising to me, like sex hormone issues?
So Tylenol or acetaminophen, we already know it can affect a fetus.
Well, there had been research on it for sure.
Okay.
Suggesting that there might be some risks here, it was surprising to me because I have been pregnant and doctors will always tell you that Tylenol and other stuff with acetaminophen in it is the safe one to take. You're not supposed to take ibuprofen because that's thought to mess up blood flow to the fetus and has been linked to congenital birth defects. Acetaminophen is thought to be like the safer of the two.
I didn't know that. So like if you're pregnant and you feel fluey or you have some pain, you're supposed to take Tylenol, not one of the other ones.
Yeah, that's why it's so common. It's like the one that for so long has thought to be relatively safe.
But even though they had these suspicions from these other conditions?
Well, there had been these kind of like trickling out of like concerns, like Brian said, that it might be messing with sex hormones, kind of acting as an endocrine disruptor.
That's so random.
Yeah, no, at first I was like, what? But apparently back 15 years ago, some researchers pointed out that some painkillers sort of look like a type of endocrine disruptor that I'm sure you've heard of, phthalates.
Sure. They're an element in plastics that are thought to be an endocrine disruptor.
Exactly, yeah. And so they tried testing whether painkillers, including acetaminophen, acted like phthalates when they put them on cells in a dish. And they found that, yeah, they kind of did.
Oh, interesting.
And we think phthalates might mess up hormones like testosterone in the body. And so researchers started looking into this. And some of them did find that people who took acetaminophen during pregnancy were more likely to have a son with undescended testicles when they were born.
Huh, okay.
Yeah, so some researchers were finding these things, not in every study, but there were these hints that something might be going on here. And that was the backdrop for this new wave of studies looking at the brain, because we know that hormones can affect brain development. So if something's messing with the hormones, maybe it could also change how the brain is developing in the fetus.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then studies start coming, looking at whether pregnant people who took acetaminophen were more likely to have a kid with autism. So like, some of them would get thousands of pregnant moms and ask them some questions.
They collected data on whether a mom used acetaminophen.
Mm-hmm.
Did you take Tylenol? Yes, no, that kind of thing. And then they followed the baby after it was born to see if the baby developed autism.
Mm-hmm. That's useful for our purposes.
Yeah, exactly. Like they followed these kids and then checked whether they were autistic. And these studies, they were finding stuff, but it was a little weird. Like one of these studies found that it upped the chance for autism, but only when the autism was accompanied by hyperactivity symptoms. Mm-hmm. Another study found that boys were more likely to be autistic with this exposure to acetaminophen in the womb, but not girls.
Huh. Okay. Kind of confusing.
Yeah, like none of these studies was like a slam dunk on its own. But at the same time, dozens of other studies were also coming out looking at other stuff, especially ADHD, and finding that rates of ADHD were up in these kids exposed to acetaminophen in the womb.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, in some cases it looked like the link was strongest for mothers who took acetaminophen pretty often, like in all 3 trimesters.
So there's like a dose response element as well.
That's what it looked like. And in 2021, this all comes to a head. A paper comes out from a bunch of researchers who'd been studying this called a consensus statement. They issued a, quote, call for precautionary action, unquote, and basically suggested that people should pump the brakes on these pills, minimize the amount of acetaminophen that they take during pregnancy. Here's Ryan.
And then to top it off, they published in a Nature journal, which is one of the most highly regarded scientific journals out there.
And so this statement really made scientists pay attention.
Up until that point, most people just kind of treated it like, oh, like a new study pops up every day, you aren't really sure what to believe or not. Mm-hmm. But when the consensus statement came out, it gave it like a stamp of authority.
Yeah, I would feel that way about a consensus statement in Nature.
Yeah.
Or a Nature offshoot. Yeah.
And some parents even started suing the companies that make meds with acetaminophen in them, saying that they should have warning labels on them about these risks. But as all of this was happening, a lot of scientists were like, wait a second.
When you use a phrase like consensus statement, it implies a sort of every single expert in the room believes X, Y, and Z. Like 9 out of 10 dentists recommend Colgate or something of that sort. So it implies a sort of authoritative weight to the evidence.
And implying that this was the consensus seemed to piss a lot of scientists off. Some of them wrote responses to that consensus statement saying that it was way too soon to come out so hard against acetaminophen, saying that the evidence they cited was, quote, weak, inconsistent, and to a large extent methodologically inadequate, unquote.
So they're saying the studies are crap.
Well, basically, yeah. That's the sciencey way of saying, what? This? That, this is not enough. And so a lot of scientists were really skeptical of this and didn't buy this story. Scientists like Brian. Does taking Tylenol actually increase, when you're pregnant, increase the chance that your kid will have autism?
The answer right now points towards no.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So that's the short of it.
Wow. Up next, the long of it. We'll hear the other side of the story and tell you whether or not you can have your damn Tylenol after the break.
Did you lock the front door?
Check.
Close the garage door?
Yep.
Installed window sensors, smoke sensors, and HD cameras with night vision?
No.
And you set up credit card transaction alerts, a secure VPN for a private connection, and continuous monitoring for our personal info on the dark web?
I'm looking into it.
Stress less about security. Choose security solutions from TELUS for peace of mind at home and online. Visit TELUS.com/total security to learn more. Conditions apply. During the Volvo Fall Experience event, discover exceptional offers and thoughtful design that leaves plenty of room for autumn adventures. And see for yourself how Volvo's legendary safety brings peace of mind to every crisp morning commute. This September, lease a 2026 XC90 plug-in hybrid from $599 bi-weekly at 3.99% during the Volvo Fall Experience event. Conditions apply. Visit your local Volvo retailer or go to explorevolvo.com.
Okay, flights on Air Canada. Oh, wow. Mallorca, that's new.
Oh, nice. But Vienna is a classic. Mozart, palaces, and schnitzel.
Now you're cooking.
If you're hungry, Delhi brings the heat.
Heat? Cartagena's got sun and the sea to cool off.
So does Martinique.
And that French cuisine? Book it.
Yes, chef.
Wait, what about Lyon?
Choose from our world of destinations, if you can. Air Canada. Nice travels.
Welcome back. This is Meryl. So far, we've gone through a lot of the evidence against acetaminophen, the ingredient in medicines like Tylenol. Lots of studies seem to find that taking it while you're pregnant does increase the chance that your kid will be autistic or have ADHD. Are you ready for the rest of the science, Rose Rimler?
Yes.
Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
All right, so here's where Brian Lee, our epidemiologist hero, comes in gallantly with a shiny new approach to looking at this question. His paper came out just last year.
We had a study funded by NIH before everything went to hell. And we were like, hey, we could actually look at this.
And so Brian teams up with some Swedish researchers because he's actually really into IKEA.
I don't think that's why.
Yeah, you got me.
I think it's because the Scandinavians keep really good records, public health records.
Yeah, it's because they have an amazing database.
Sweden having its lovely universal healthcare system means that you can track everyone. They don't just disappear in the system. They're tracked. Everyone has access to this, right?
So yeah, they got data from a ton of kids, almost 2.5 million of them. Basically every kid who was born there over a 24-year period. And they also had data from the moms, details about their medical care, like the medicines that they took during pregnancy. And so now Brian's team looked to see, were the kids exposed to acetaminophen in utero more likely to be autistic? And right off the bat, they found that yes, they were. So they found that the kids who were exposed to acetaminophen had a 20 to 30% higher chance of being autistic.
Oh, that's not what I was expecting. You were about to tell me.
Right. But actually, Brian's team was sort of relieved when they found this.
This shows that we're not in crazy land, for example, that somehow our data are not flawed, we're not flawed. Everything is working as anticipated.
And that's because the effect that Brian was seeing in his data was in the same ballpark as what other groups had found. But here's where Brian and his team took a different path. They wanted to see if other factors might be muddling up the data here, making it look like it's the acetaminophen to blame when really it's something else entirely.
Yeah, okay, so Brian is trying to think of, are there other factors that might come into play here, and trying to like do some science to sort of suss those out, basically?
Yeah, and so to try to do that sussing out, he starts checking like, okay, what if some of the other factors that we know are linked to autism could be contributing to that effect that he saw, that 20 to 30% increased chance?
Mm-hmm.
Because like we talked about in an earlier episode on autism, we know that the age of the mom can affect the chance of whether her kid will be autistic. Like older moms are more likely to have autistic kids. Or if the mom has some other health condition or got sick during pregnancy, that might increase the chance for autism too.
And so those factors have been known for a while and are generally pretty well accepted.
Yeah, exactly. And so Brian's team took another look at the data, and when they started accounting for some of that stuff, like how old the moms were, the effect of acetaminophen got smaller. It went from increasing the chance of having an autistic kid by 20 or 30% down to 5%.
When it's down to like a 5% increase in risk, you start to actually wonder whether or not it's real or not.
Could it be like moms who are older are more likely to take Tylenol because they're like